Hey guys, so we have here our coffee grinder. This case here, this is one from Nima. And for some reason, this has stopped working all of a sudden. So when you press the button, it doesn't grind our coffee beans anymore. So I'm just here early in the morning trying to make my new coffee grounds. And yeah, it doesn't work. So let's take a look and see if we can fix this. So first of all, of course, we're going to unplug it. And then we are taking a look at the bottom of the coffee grinder. Here we find two small Phillips screws holding down the bottom part here, this black plastic part. So we're going to take those two screws out, and underneath we find here for one the motor, and then just a whole bunch of wires, and then here the button in the lower left corner. So how do we figure out what the problem is? And that can pretty much only be three problems that we can have. So either the motor is defective, or the button stopped working, or something is wrong with the wiring. So in order to start figuring out what's wrong, I'm actually going to plug the grinder back into the outlet. And I'm going to check the button. So first I'm going to make sure that there is voltage coming through here. So we have, in this case, 220 volts. And now we can check if the button may be defective. So when you press the button, normally the motor should be engaging. And if you just shorten here the wires, the blue and the black wire here, in this case together, then in my case, the motor starts running. So that means that the button is defective. And since it was really early in the morning, I really needed my cup of joe. I made a really quick fix with just a piece of paper clip that I wrapped around the two contacts from the button. So I basically shorted it out, went around the button. I just completely always turned on the motor as soon as the plug is connected with the outlet. So that's how I could really quickly make my coffee here, and then I could take a look on how to fix this problem. So I'm going to first remove here the button from the grinder by just squeezing together those two plastic tabs that you can see from the inside. And well, my first idea was to actually replace the entire cable, that goes to the grinder, with this alternative that I have just sitting around. So you can use that instead of using the original black wire with the button. I could just use this white one that has like a switch integrated into the wire. I would just make a little knot here as a stress relief, and then I would just connect in this case, the brown and the blue wire to the black wires that go to the motor, and that way we would have a really easy fix, but we wouldn't use the button, the original button. That would be just useless at this point, or wouldn't even be connected, or you would have a hole there. So my second thought was, hey, let's just check out the button itself and see if there's a way to figure out what's wrong with the button, and if we can fix it and just use the original button instead of using here this new one, or this alternative one that I still had sitting around, the button, or the white cable with the button included. Okay, so now we have to take apart this original button, so we can see when you press the button, then you can see this little part there sliding, and you see this little slot here on the side. And I'm just going to use the paper clip again. I'm going to push with this paper clip upwards in the slot here, so that allows us to get the button part, the push button part, the part that we're pushing here inside, that's spring loaded. So we can push that out. So normally the button itself doesn't come out of the plastic housing here, but if you use something small and push up here in these little two slots, then you can take out the button here. And in there we find right there a small spring, and then on the bottom is like it's like a trigger plate or a plate that will connect the two wires that are connected here to the button. See this here, this little metal plate there. That's what creates the contact when you push the button and makes the electricity here flow. And right underneath that metal plate is another small spring. Can't see that at this time. We're going to take a look at that later on. So you see here this little metal plate, and then underneath there's the two contacts that we see also from the outside. So that's where the two wires are soldered onto. And you can see that in this case the lower or the right one, the right contact, that is really looks original, nice and shiny. But the left one, that has a lot, that is kind of black. So that one has some corrosion, or so from the sparks that is created when you push the button. There's a little spark, and that kind of corrodes the contacts. So that's why this corrosion is why the button probably doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to use here my little screwdriver, and I'm just trying to scrape off that corrosion, that we have a nice fresh contact again. And then here also, if you look at this trigger plate, so you see here we have the same problem. The one side is really black. So from the sparks that are being created when you push the button, that's what's causing that. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. First I tried to scrape it off with my fingernail, but then I decided to try some sandpaper. So if you grind that down just a little bit to make it shiny again, then that should normally do. Yeah, so if you remember how that looked like just a minute ago, it was really nice and black, and now this is really shiny again. So this should really work well. Make sure that you also have the contact inside nice and shiny if you can. So now the reassembly, we're going to first add here the small spring that's on the bottom right underneath that trigger plate. So this makes sure that the spring makes sure that when we release the button that the motor actually turns off, or that the contact is being released or opened up. So then we put this trigger plate in there, and then here we have the bigger spring, and then we have to make sure we put in the button, the plastic button, in the right way. And we have to make sure to remember how that plastic button came out of the housing. So then make sure the button really still works. It's nice and springy and opens back up when you release, and doesn't just get stuck somehow accidentally. So in my case I had to resolder one of the wires back on. So I did that, of course, now. And then we can already reinstall the button just by pressing or pushing it back through the hole, and the two plastic clips here will make sure that it's just going to stay in place and won't come out again. So now, and then the last step will be is to make sure that the wires are all neat in there. They won't interfere with the motor when the motor is running. They won't be wrapping themselves around the motor. And then now put the bottom cover back on. Make sure you align it right. So in this case here, with the two screws, or the holes for the screws, have to align. So we have here the two Phillips screws that go in there. Make them nice and tight. And yeah, that was already it. So now our coffee grinder is functional again, just like original. And yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any more questions or comments, then please leave a message below.